I'm not sure why I'm even trying to write this. Maybe if I get it down, someone will believe me. Do you know how hard it is to get a phone in a hospital? But I need to tell this story, because it's not just my insomnia playing tricks on me, this is real. And if I can get someone to listen, maybe I'll figure out how to stop it. It started a few months ago. I'd had another rough day at work, barely keeping my eyes open through meetings. My insomnia's been brutal for years, so sleep wasn't even on the table. I got home, sat down, and scrolled through my phone for a few hours until that got boring. That's when I did something that changed everything. I turned on the TV. It was late, so I flipped through channels, trying to find something to watch. Eventually, I landed on some random talk show. But as soon as I saw the host, I froze. He looked exactly like me. Exactly. Same eyes, same hair, even the way he smiled felt familiar. It was uncanny. I probably should have taken a picture, but I didn't. I was too stunned. Then, he starts doing a magic trick. His voice was weirdly upbeat as he said, "I'm going to cut this woman in half." It wasn't a joke, he sounded serious. He got into position, the camera zooming in on his face as he spoke, but I couldn't pay attention to the details. All I remember thinking was how wrong this all felt, like I was watching myself from some parallel universe. The next day, I couldn't shake the show from my mind. The host, the trick, his voice. I was so distracted that I got into a car accident on my way to work. Nothing serious, but the guy the first hit screamed at me, "Do you even watch the road, you motherfucker?" All I could say was, "I'm sorry," before driving away, my mind still buzzing with the memory of the show. After the crash, I had to take an Uber to work. The driver's windows were tinted so dark, I wasn't even sure it was legal. I tried to make small talk, asked him, "You got some seriously tinted windows?" He replied, "I just like the way it looks." Something about his tone was off, but I brushed it aside. But it wasn't just him. Everything started to feel wrong. The building where I worked, my coworkers, the streets outside, it all had this strange, unsettling vibe. I couldn't stop thinking about the show, like it was infecting every part of my life. I tried to find it online, tried to figure out where it was filmed, but nothing came up. No records, no archives. It was like it didn't exist. One Sunday, I was heading to church. I always carry a small crucifix in my pocket, just a habit. When I got into my Uber, the driver, the same one from before, said, "Put the crucifix away." I froze. "How the hell did you know I had one? And why does it matter?" He didn't answer. That's when it hit me, this guy wasn't normal. I pieced it together in my head. The tinted windows, his pale skin, the way he avoided eye contact. He was a vampire. I panicked. I didn't believe in vampires, but nothing else made sense. "Are you a vampire?" I asked, my voice shaking. He turned to me, his eyes cold, and said, "Yes." I bolted. I jumped out of the Uber window, crashing onto the sidewalk, and took off running. The city felt like it had transformed into a maze, buildings and streets twisting in ways they shouldn't. Every billboard I passed was an ad for that damn talk show, and the same show was playing on every screen in every window I ran by. I kept running until I bumped into this man. He didn't look human. His eyes were too large, and he had no ears. His skin was stretched tight over his bones, and his clothes looked like they were from a different time. "Do you know what's going on?" I gasped. He looked at me with wide, lifeless eyes and said in a raspy voice, "Go to the TV." Go to the TV. I had no idea what he meant, but I kept moving. My shadow wasn't following me right. It twisted and jerked, like it was a separate entity. The clocks on the walls started ticking backward, and the world around me shifted into this strange photo-negative version of reality, like I'd fallen into some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Then, in a moment of blind desperation, I dove through a TV screen. I don't know how, but one second I was on the street, and the next I was standing on the set of that talk show. The host, the man who looked like me, was sitting behind his desk, grinning. "You made it faster than I expected," he said, his voice dripping with smugness. "What the hell is going on?" I shouted. "Who are you? And who was the vampire?" He stood up, adjusting his tie, and said, "You're going to be the next host. The vampire was just here to guide you." Everything in me screamed to run, but I couldn't. My body felt frozen in place. Somehow, I managed to grab a sharp object from the desk and lunge at him. I stabbed him, hard. White blood, like milk, poured from the wound, and his eyes widened in shock. But he didn't die. He grabbed me, threw me against the wall, his grip like iron. I kicked him off me and bolted for the exit. When I stepped outside, everything seemed normal again. But something was wrong. I still had his blood all over me. People stared as I ran down the street, and soon enough, the police showed up. They asked for my ID, but I didn't have it on me. I told them, "It's at my house, I'll get it." But when they drove me there, someone else was living in my home. The police didn't believe me. They said I was confused, maybe traumatized from the crash. I told them about the show, about the host who looked like me, the vampire. But when they tried to find the show, they couldn't. There was no record of it. Eventually, they stopped asking questions and brought me here. To this hospital. To keep me safe. But I'm not crazy. It's real. And I know. They're watching me.